Hello, William here from 222 Productions, and I'm here to talk to you, well, about a variety of things. You see, I'd already reviewed all the episodes of American Ninja Warrior Season 10, with the exception of the All-Star and USA vs. the World episodes that don't air yet, until about next year, usually. However, there's a few more things I want to get off of my chest. And one of the things is a solution for the $100,000 last man standing rule. I want to share that with you. But before I talk about that, there's a few other topics I want to talk about, including some additional info in regards to the behind the scenes of stages 2 and 3, as well as some additional info about Ninja Warrior news and other Ninja Warrior related podcasts and discussions. So, without further ado, I will attempt to talk about all of that in approximately 20 minutes or less, would you say? Starting now. So, I just want to say, you might be wondering, why now? Why not, a week or two earlier? And the main reason is that last week I was actually on vacation. I traveled all the way to Spain. It was a rather nice vacation, actually. But, I just, after watching ANW, I needed a vacation. This was planned ahead of time. Spain was very lovely. A great place. But while I was there, I got to think about a few things and got to examine a few things during my downtime, like in the hotel room or traveling on the bus to different cities. So, one of the things that I want to talk about is the cliffhanger for Stage 3 this year, the Ultimate Cliffhanger. One of the things that I talked about is how both Sean and Drew both failed the same spot. They failed to grab and hold on to the final ledge during the second 180 transfer. And I was very surprised in that, especially with Drew. And one of the things that it was brought to my attention by in the comments and by other people in general is that the last ledge is flat. And so I decided to investigate it myself. Now, for those of you who don't know, last year in ANW 9, as well as previous seasons, the ledge for Ultimate Cliffhanger is actually curved. So there's a curvedness to it, and then flat area. So it's like a giant ledge, giant like grip. It's not just a flat ledge like with what it is in Sasuke. And when you rewatch Joe's third stage run from last year, you can see that it's clearly the case because they got a nice close up on that. With Sean and Drew, I didn't. I was rewatching the YouTube clips specifically. You don't get as close of a shot as you did with Drew, because with Drew it's like it's right there, like you can see it like this close. But looking at the footage, it does appear that indeed that last ledge is flat, not curved. Like in like last season. So that was certainly a contributing factor. Surprising that Drew failed, but we'll get more into that in a little bit when I talk about the Last Ninja Standing Rule. But another thing I want to talk about in regards to changes is regarding the water walls. So I originally didn't bring this up in my review because I wasn't able to get confirmation from my sources that this actually happened. So the word around town is that the water walls were nerfed mid-filming. There was a few stories going around, but basically the idea is that after Sean and probably Naji's run, so one thing you got to remember is that Naji ran before Sean. Sorry, I got that backwards. Sean ran before Naji in Stage 2. And in their original runs, they had both timed out at the water walls. And then Sean was given a rerun because of perceived technical issues. But one of the things that was brought up is that the weight of these obstacles were reduced. when Drew ran specifically, and I guess that would also mean when Sean ran the second time around. And like I said, I wasn't able to get confirmation, so I didn't want to bring it up. But another source had come forward and kind of confirmed, like, yeah, they were modified to be made faster. So I don't know if that necessarily I'm assuming that requires lessening the weight of the walls themselves. And I think the fact that like Drew was able to so easily push up that third wall, which I don't think was intentional, he was just trying to get through it. I think that kind of confirms that they probably did something to it. For the record, I do think Drew could have cleared the water walls with the original weights involved with it. Assuming that there was no technical malfunction. But I don't think, I certainly don't think Drew needed any sort of nerfing because he's, really good. But, so yeah, it seems to be an interesting case where both Deja Vu and Water Walls were modified mid-taping to do that. Now, you might have noticed that I mentioned in the past, Sean Bryan got a rerun because of the Water Walls being changed, but Najee was never given a rerun. And so you might be wondering, why wasn't Najee given a rerun? And so it's kind of hard to... This is, again, one of those rumors where it's like, I don't know for sure if this is true, but one of my sources kind of mentioned it, is that the leading theory is that the reason why Najee didn't get a rerun for timing out on the water walls was because in reality he actually should have been disqualified on the crisscross salmon ladder. You see, apparently, from what I was told, the rules of the crisscross salmon ladder is there's 3 sections. So obviously 1, you cross over to 2, and then you cross over to 3. That you have to go to the very top of each section. That is the rule before you do the crossover. And in the case of Najee, he didn't do that. When switching over from Section 2 to Section 3, he didn't go to the very top. He launched from the second rung down instead of the top rung. And if you watch his run, you can see that they did some sneakiness with the editing. Because he goes to the second section of Crisscross Salmon Ladder. They cut to Chris Wilczewski cheering him on, and then they cut him mid-transfer from the second section to the third section. And if you look closely from the trajectory, you can see he's not really doing it from the top rung. And so that seems to be the leading reason as to why he didn't get a rerun. And I just want to say, like, if that's true, I personally think that's a silly rule. I don't think it's really... I don't like it when obstacles is like you have to, at least on Ninja Warrior and stuff like that, this whole idea is like, oh, you can't do something that is faster and kind of harder to pull off when you're competing. Because like that seems like, from all intents and purposes, that seems like a harder move to do, but yet it's banned. I don't like it when they say you can't do that sort of stuff. There's certain instances where I understand it, but I'm not a fan of that rule in that instance. Kind of reminds me when Flip got DQ'd in ANW 8. It's like, well, you shouldn't have designed the obstacle so that it's so easy to skip half of it. I'm just saying. Oh man, I really needed that. So yeah, that's sort of the leading rumor, and I'm not a fan of that rule. But that seems to be what happened. I know for a fact Najee didn't get a rerun because he said so himself. Which brings me to my next subject, is that I really wish ANW nerfs Stage 2 and 3, especially Stage 2. There's no shame in nerfing a course. I think I'll kind of make a case in point here, is that in between the filming of my review of the ANW season finale and the filming of this video, I finally watched Sasuke 35. I did it on the plane ride to Spain. And I'll say this, it was the most enjoyable Sasuke since 31. In regards to my enjoyment. It was the most I enjoyed since 31, I would say. And I think a big reason for that is that they did indeed nerf Stage 3. They added a rest bar in between the cliffhanger and the vertical limit. And I have no problem with a course being nerfed if that course feels impossible. And in this case, Stage 3 in Sasuke felt pretty much impossible because of that combination of obstacles that with no rest in between. Now that there's a rest bar, it feels possible, and I feel more engaged watching Stage 3, and it made it more enjoyable overall. And so I think I just want to sort of get the point across that there's nothing wrong with nerfing a course for ANW. Also, you don't really need to change the course so dramatically every year. Like, I was trying to think about it. With Stage 3, changing, I mean, I like Unguard, and I like Cane Lane, and I like the Crazy Clocks. But when you think about it, changing the course so dramatically every season is really not necessary. Especially because, the past 3 years, we've only had 7 attempts on the course by 5 different people. And so it's, I think the idea, the thing that A&W needs to get across is that they don't need to be so drastic with the changes. I know I've been criticizing A&W for not changing, but I think they put their changes in ways, they're misguided. They're misguided with their ways, I feel like, when it comes to changing. And you get this feeling like they just want to make obstacles that are like bigger and badder and harder, and it's like, you can tone it down a bit. You really can. And I feel like they should, and I think maybe they finally will. Because, again, I just want to point out the whole 25% rule. It's like, I really, and some of the panicking that they were doing behind the scenes, you really get a sense that, like, they realize they messed up, and hopefully they will fully realize how to fix it, There's no shame in nerfing a course if you make it, too impossible. You got to design a course based around the talent pool. And yes, you have some very talented people who make it to Stage 2, but you are asking them to make multiple precision in-air maneuvers that in many cases are one shot. It's hard to do. It's hard to do perfectly. That's just sort of the main point I want to get across. But another thing I want to do is I originally thought about maybe making this my own video, but I'm going to throw it in here. So I'm going to do a very quick game of Keep, Modify, Destroy. Basically, I'm going to go through the entire course, and I got come up with 3 different responses with what I want done with it. Either keep it as it is, keep it as it is, but change it in some way, which is modify, or destroy, which is just get rid of it, don't like it, whatever. So, Stage 1, Archer Alley. I really like that obstacle, so I'm going to keep it. Propeller Bar. I've said many times how much I don't like this obstacle, and with both, considering you already have a trampoline obstacle, you already have an obstacle with a rope swing in it, it is redundant, it is unnecessary, it is obsolete. Destroy it, get rid of it, period. Then you have the Double Dipper. I would say modify. Specifically, I'll try to find a way to make it less dangerous. One of the other things that I watched was on plane rides, I watched Konoichi 11 also, which I really enjoyed. And on that version of the Dragon's Gate, which is the Big Dipper, and on Sasuke, the Dragon Gate is the Double Dipper, Konoichi actually has a bar that is connected to the track and actually can't fall off. And so I was thinking, for safety reasons, maybe it'd be better off to use that. At least maybe for like the second one. Because there's kind of a, I guess, concern that I have with watching some of the runs, and seemingly there's this whole idea of like being too good on the first half of the Double Dipper causes people to fail the second half. So I don't know. I guess figure something out, because it feels like people are failing for the wrong reasons. So I put that as a modify. Jumping Spider. Jumping Spider is a tough one to judge, because it's like, I like the obstacle, but man, you've been using it every single ANW, haven't you? So I'm gonna say keep for now. I'm gonna say keep, because I really like the obstacle and I'm fine with it. You know, you don't have to put like a jump hanger or anything like that in there. It's fine. Jeep Run. That's a destroy from me. They need to get away from the Sasuke 27 formula, and like they just need to come up with something besides the typical half pipe attack obstacle. You know, that spot has always been the half pipe attack, and it needs to change, in my personal opinion. So come up with something different. Yeah. Warped Wall, I will say modify in this one, specifically in terms of placement. Warped Wall should be the 7th obstacle, not the 6th. I feel like the later you have the Warped Wall, the harder it is, and I think thematically it makes better. The closer you have it to the end, thematically it makes more sense, because it is an unfailable obstacle, and so having an unfailable obstacle closer to the end, I think, is better. Razor Beams, get rid of it, destroy, just come with something new, something better. Twist and Fly. I'm torn on this one, because I like the obstacle, but I really want to see something besides a net, you know, a cargo net to climb. So I think, only because I've asked for so many changes, I'm going to say keep. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to changes being made. Stage 2. Epic Catcher release. You know what? Fine, keep it. Just because I know I'm going to be safe for the rest of the stage. Crisscross Salmon Ladder, I would modify. I would just say, you keep it simpler. Make it the double Salmon Ladder. It's fine, you know, whatever. You don't have to go overboard. Deja Vu, I really like. I really like Deja Vu. You know, you could argue whether or not it should be in stage 3. I know it's fine. But as it is, I'd say keep it. But that's just me. Swing Surfer. I know in ANW 9 I said like I was more accepting of it. And now in ANW 10, I'm talking about how worthless it is. It's just, I think it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I'm good for it for one season, and then like now that it's a second season, I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm over it. I'm over it. I think that's just kind of the best way to put it. I'm over the Swing Surfer. So destroy it, get rid of it. Wingnut Alley, modify. 3 wingnuts, not 4, and probably smaller distances. You know, I'm being nice. You know, I'm not going to go straight out just destroy, but yeah, you know, it's too overpowered. I guess that's the best way to put it. And you could argue that Deja Vu is too overpowered too, but like I feel like Wingnut Alley is especially overpowered, because I do feel like even if all, what was it? Was it 10? It was either 10 or 11 people who failed the Deja Vu, but like I feel like if all those people who failed the Deja Vu made it to the Wingnut Alley, I think like maybe at most 2 of them would have passed it. So yeah, you gotta nerf the Wingnut Alley. And then the water walls. That is a big fat destroy from me. Get rid of it. There's no need for a fear factor obstacle to be an American Ninja Warrior. Stage 3, floating boards. I'm gonna say destroy, just because I think it's time to come up with something different. It's been around in, I believe, every season, in some form or another, and so you know what, need something new. What was the second obstacle? On guard, yeah. On guard, keep. I really like it. Maybe put in a different location. Maybe be better in a later on the stage, but I'm fine with it where it is. I like it. Crazy clocks, I like it. Keep. Ultimate cliffhanger, modify. I do think a simpler design with smaller railings would be better. You can have the 180 turns, but that thing is big and it's ugly, and it doesn't really, you don't really need it as much. Curved body prop, I'll say keep. It's fine where it is. Peg cloud, I found it. I only seen it once. It's hard to judge because Joe's run. I'm gonna say, just because it seems so weird and awkward, I'm gonna say destroy. I don't know, I'm just not feeling it right now. Cane Lane, I can't really judge. It's really hard to judge an obstacle you haven't seen yet, so I guess keep. I liked it in Indianapolis. And then flying bar, keep it. It's a good final obstacle, I've said like I prefer the pipe slider, but nah, you can keep the flying bar. It's fine as it is. And then you have the final stage, which is a big fat destroy from me. You need something else that is not a rope climb. I don't care that you made it taller. What I care about the fact is that it's still a rope climb. You can make it 100 feet for all I care. I don't like the fact that it's still just a rope climb. Come up with something different, please. So that's my keep, modify, destroy for the stages. So next thing I want to bring up really quickly in terms of opinions is Stage 5 Ninja Awards. I just want to kind of plug that for a little bit. Basically, Armchair Ninja Podcast had their second annual Stage 5 Ninja Awards. I was one of the judges for the various categories. I wasn't on the show during the awards show because I was in Spain during the filming of that, so that wasn't even an option for me. But I was one of 9, I believe, judges judging the various categories. Go listen to that to see what the winners are. Just sort of to give a few of my opinions in terms of what I differed on. I disagreed with Breakout Female Ninja, but I certainly understand. I have no problem with the one who did win, and I certainly understand where people are coming from. And honestly, some of the explanations were given. I certainly understand. Best new obstacle was actually a tie between two of them, and I voted for neither of those when I voted. So I feel like it's my fault that it's a tie, especially because I actually had written down one of the obstacles originally, and then I switched it to the Deja Vu for best new obstacle. What's interesting is that I would not have picked what won the viewer vote for best new obstacle. Just personal preference. And then best male ninja, I think, was the other major one that I disagreed with. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I fully expected the one who won to win, but as other people will bring up, there was another person who was probably more worthy of that title. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit in terms of people being overlooked despite having similar results. But speaking of sort of results and stuff, all right. So ANW Fantasy. I haven't talked about this at all, and part of the reason is because I knew before the season even started that I was dead in the water. So I just want to go through my team really quickly. This year for ANW Fantasy, I had Jake Murray, Najee Richardson, Drew Dreschel, Josh Levin, and Kyle Soderman. And the reason I chose Kyle was because I saw him on Beastmaster. Obviously, he was killing it on Ninja vs. Ninja. And I just thought he would be a real surprise dark horse who would go really far in his rookie year. But unfortunately, he didn't get picked to be on American Ninja Warrior, which was frustrating because he got featured so prominently on Ninja vs. Ninja. But NBC decided, because it hasn't been that long since season 2 of Beastmaster aired, that they weren't going to put him on the show. So USA didn't have a problem with it, but NBC does, and it screwed me over because that's a big fat zero. You can't win if one of your ninjas on your team has a 0. I still did okay. The winner on the money pool, which you can only win the money, the $250, if you enter prior to the taping date, the first taping, which is the LA qualifier. So the winning team got 197.5 points. I finished with 155.5 points, which is not bad considering I really only had 4 people on my team. They also have a second pool, which is specifically for everyone who entered after the fact, after taping started. So when I changed my team, I specifically made sure to choose someone who is who I knew was going to compete in Minneapolis, because at the time that was the only regional that hadn't filmed yet. So that way it would, be, I guess I wouldn't have an unfair advantage. In this case, I chose Joe Morosky. I never chose him before, but now I finally did. The top team of the general non-money pool was 205.5 points, and I ended up finishing with a solid 180, which I'm proud of that. That is way better than I did last year. So hopefully I'll be able to do better next year. We'll have to see. But yeah, if you never checked out ANW Fantasy, you should do that. They got stats. They do fantasy leagues for every season of American Ninja Warrior. So if you want to enter for season 11 and possibly win $250, go enter. Check that out, ANWFantasy.com. Also, the obstacle design contest, I didn't enter this year because I forgot, and I couldn't come up with a good obstacle design that I thought was fit for American Ninja Warrior. So, oh well, maybe next year. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Also, in just some other news that I want to touch up on quickly, is that as of right now, there is no word on Ninja vs. Ninja taping for a new season. And for those of you who don't know, last year Ninja vs. Ninja was taped in October. And it's October right now, as I'm filming this. And so, unless something changes, maybe they'll film at a later date. But right now, it's not looking good for Ninja vs. Ninja. This past season might truly end up being the last season. So, if that ends up being the case, I'll make a video kind of talking about it and maybe some of the things that went wrong. But it's a shame because it's a fun show to watch overall. And then just to let everyone know, ANW Junior is going to air on Universal Kids starting on October 13th. So check that out if you want. It actually uses the Ninja vs. Ninja format, so you're not going to be completely depraved of Ninja vs. Ninja. But yeah, that is going to debut soon, actually. And the last thing I want to talk about, the thing that I promised to talk about in the beginning of this video, is my solution for how to fix the last man standing rule. Because you see, the issue that people have with last man standing rule, that some people have, I should say, is that it creates a scenario where that is similar to what happened in ANW 7, where you have two people who did the same, who made the same amount of progress. They both failed the same spot, but only one of them got the money. And more importantly, both Sean and Drew, essentially they rushed stage 3 in an attempt to get the $100,000. It's hard to tell whether or not Sean truly rushed stage 3. It kind of, from what I could tell from people who were there, it does seem like he was. And Drew was obviously rushing stage 3, the first 3 obstacles at least, to beat Sean's time, as evidenced by just watching the episode. You know, he cleared the first 3 obstacles. He asked his girlfriend if he was good. His girlfriend April said, "Okay, you're okay. You beat him." And then he failed on Cliffhanger, and in his interview he admitted that he didn't rest as long as he normally would because he was going for the $100,000. You know, basically he took the more guaranteed money than the million. And also, you know, people were talking about how, like, technically Sean had a better season than Drew because Sean's the only person to have 4 buzzers, whereas Drew only hit 3 buzzers this season. And, you know, they both failed the same spot as the Cliffhanger. And, you know, and I think originally my thoughts on this was that maybe it just requires the competitors to, I guess for lack of a better term, be disciplined enough to not rush it or have, like, you know, the right mindset heading in. Because it does sort of seem like, you know, they were both tempted by the $100,000. So they could, you know, they would end up rushing stage 3. So I kind of thought about it, but the solution actually seems pretty obvious now after I thought about it for a couple of days. So for those of you who don't know, after the debacle that happened in ANW 7, ANW actually changed their rule sets. See, originally the rule said that if there's more than one winner on American Ninja Warrior, the $1 million only goes to the person who finished the final stage the fastest. But starting with ANW 8, they actually changed the rules to say that if there are multiple winners, everyone who finished the final stage splits the $1 million. And with that mindset, why not just have a similar rule for the $100,000 last man standing? What I'm getting at is the timer aspect of stage 3, I think, is the biggest reason why Drew and Sean failed where they did. You know, they failed earlier than they should have, and all that. It was a hindrance on the competitors. Why not just eliminate the timer aspect altogether, and instead just make it whoever goes the furthest on the course gets $100,000, and if there is a tie, they split the money. That, I feel like, would be the best solution. That way, everyone who is on stage 3 has no reason to rush through the course. They have every reason to rest and take as long as they want within the rules on the course. And I feel like that would be better overall. You wouldn't be as competitive. I feel like, you know, competitors being competitive on the qualifiers is one thing because you're battling out for a spot to be in Midoriyama. But once you get to Midoriyama, it has to be truly man versus course, because every time you have this element of man versus man, whether it's the final stage in ANW 7 or stage 3 in ANW 10, you sour a bit of the audience. You sour the audience. You sour, you know, the purpose of the show. And so you have to create a situation where you eliminate as much of the man versus man feeling as possible. And so I think having a scenario where you only go by whoever goes the furthest, and having the people who tie split the money, would be the most beneficial for everyone. That's just my 2 cents. What do you think about that? Do you like that idea? Do you think it's a good solution? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like what you saw, hey, why don't you subscribe and tell me what you thought about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that I talked about as well. This is some interesting things, but I do plenty of videos like this, and I will do videos beyond just this with Ninja Warrior related stuff and obstacle course related stuff as well. Got the rest of the year planned out, and it'll continue into 2019, and hopefully you'll be around to check it all out. So until next time, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.